Chapter 21. I finally remembered it all. And now I stared down at my desk, cluttered with drawings of Sean, stared down at his serious face. And I pictured his head, his handsome head, lying on the pure white snow, his dark eyes staring up the slope at us, staring so accusingly. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to stop my body from shivering, but the chills wouldn't stop. They rolled down my body. I felt so cold and frightened, as if I were standing on the slope again, as if I were back in the snow, staring in horror at the thin silver line. Helpless, so helpless and horrified. My memory was back, so sharp and clear, I felt sick all over again. I wiped tears off my face with both hands. I hadn't even realized I was crying. Now I let the sobs come, sobs that tightened my face, tightened my throat until I gasped for breath. Sean, poor Sean. And then I remembered even more. I had a fight with Sean, an ugly fight. I had a fight with Sean, and then he died. The night before, Sean and I had fought, and then he died, and the police came. I remembered their blue-black uniforms against the whiteness of the snow, remembered their stern faces, red from the cold, eyes staring hard at me, studying me, remembered their questions, endless questions. They questioned us all, for hours and hours. And then, I still didn't remember. But I remembered enough. Aaron was right. I was better off before the horrible memory came back. I hugged myself tighter, trying to force away the chills that shook my body. And then the phone rang. Adriana. I remember everything, I blurted out. Adriana, it all came back to me, just now. Oh, I'm so sorry, she whispered. It's so horrible, Martha. You must feel so bad. Yes, I admitted. I tried to say more, but the words caught in my throat. It's been so horrible, for all of us, Adriana murmured into the phone. Ever since that day, Adriana, that wire, I interrupted. Did somebody deliberately plan to kill one of us? Silence. Then, no one knows, Martha. Huh? I cried. But the police, didn't they figure out what happened? Adriana sighed. It took forever for the police to get up the slope. We were all crying and screaming. We were all out of our minds. Poor Laura. They had to give her medication to put her to sleep, and Ivan nearly went nuts. But the police, I tried to say. They questioned us all. They studied the wire. Then they took it down and brought it to their lab, but they couldn't figure out who strung the wire, or why. Tears rolled down my cheeks. I made no attempts to brush them away. I was concentrating on Adriana's words, trying to understand what she was telling me. And now I could hear her crying too, short, gasping sobs. She stammered. I don't know. It was so awful. Such a total nightmare, Martha. Silence while she tried to get herself together. Then she continued in a shaky voice. I'll never get over it. I haven't slept since. Not a single night, Martha. Not a single night that I didn't live that nightmare again. Again and again. Adriana, I started, but she uttered a loud sob and kept talking. I can't concentrate. I don't hear a word in school. I can't do my homework. My grades. I can't think straight. A cold shudder nearly made me drop the phone. I gripped it tighter in my clammy hand. Adriana, I choked out. You don't think one of us killed Sean, do you? What do you think? She replied, shouting now, screaming the words as if she were angry. What do you think, Martha? There is no one else up on that hilltop. No one. We were the only ones up there. Who else could have strung that wire? The wire. The silver wire. I pictured the wire as I tried to digest Adriana's words. Who else could have strung that wire? No one else was up there. We were the only ones. The only ones who could have killed Sean. I'm coming over, Adriana said suddenly, jarring me from my thoughts. Her voice was filled with emotion. I'm coming over. I've been so worried about you, Martha. It must have been so horrible for you, losing your memory, then starting to draw Sean's face again and again. Yes, I didn't understand anything, I sighed. It took me so long to put it together. It took me so long to remember. A question forced its way into my mind. A question I didn't want to ask myself. Why did I lose my memory? Why not one of the others, one of my friends? Why did I take Sean's death so much harder than anyone else? Why did it affect me so strongly? Was it because I had fought with Sean the night before he was murdered? Did I feel guilty because I had fought with him on his last night on Earth? Why? Why? It was a question I couldn't answer. But maybe someone could help answer it now. Maybe Adriana would help me now. Yes, please, I pleaded. Come over right now. I'm on my way, she replied softly, and the phone went dead. I set down the receiver thinking hard, my mind whirring at top speed, remembering. Who had a reason to kill Sean? Who would want Sean dead? Ivan? No. Sean was Ivan's friend. Ivan had brought him into our group. Aaron? Laura? Justine? No. No, of course not. Everyone liked Sean. Everyone. I crossed my bedroom to the closet and pulled open the door. I wanted to get changed before Adriana arrived. I pulled a pair of faded jeans from the shelf and back. I was glad Adriana had decided to come over. Maybe now we could have a long, long talk, get everything off our chests. I needed to talk, and I knew it would be good for Adriana. The poor girl, she was so wrecked. She was having such a bad time of it. Her parents fighting the battle of the century, her brother suspended from school, ruining his life. I heard a car door slam out front. Startled, I dropped the jeans. I bent to pick them up off the closet floor, and saw a brown bag, a brown canvas carryall. Oh! I uttered a short cry as I remembered it. The bag I had taken on the trip up to the cabins. The bag I had packed all my stuff in last November. What is it doing here in the back of my closet, I wondered. Did I forget to unpack it? Did I just shove it back here and forget about it? I dragged it out into my room. My hands shook as I opened it. The bag was nearly full. I pulled out wrinkled sweaters and rolled up jeans, 2 pairs of tights. I never unpacked, I realized. I must have been so upset, so out of my mind, I just hid the bag away. I pulled out more clothes, a cosmetics bag, my old hair dryer, and then... No! I screamed out loud when I saw it, a high wail of horror. At the bottom of the bag, coiled up in a corner of the bag, tucked tightly away, wire, silver wire, rolled up tightly, beside a pair of wire cutters. The wire that killed Sean? I stared into the bag, afraid to move, afraid to look, unable to look away. I stared into the bag, stared at the coiled up wire, and I knew who killed Sean. I did. I was the one. You've been drawing him because you killed him. Chapter 22. I heard the front door open. I heard Mom talking to Adriana downstairs, but I didn't move. I stared into the bag, stared at the silver wire. One word repeated in my mind. Why? It drowned out the voices downstairs, drowned out the pounding thuds of my heartbeats, my shrill, gasping breaths. Why? Why did I kill Sean? I shut my eyes and struggled to remember. Why did he and I fight? I couldn't remember. I remembered shoving him. He wanted to keep kissing me, and I didn't want him to. I shoved him away from me, shoved him with real anger, but I couldn't drag up the rest of the scene. It makes sense, I murmured in a dull, lifeless voice. It all makes sense. I was the only one who lost her memory. And then I began to draw his face. Every time I started to draw, I sketched Sean's face, because of my guilt, because my subconscious mind knew that I had murdered him. Oh! I backed away from the bag. It was too much to bear. I felt about to collapse. My head spun and my knees started to give away. I heard Adriana's footsteps on the stairs. And then another horrifying question forced its way into my thoughts. Does everyone know? Does everyone know that I killed him? I wondered, gripped with cold horror. Does everyone suspect that I was the one? Is that why they've all acted so strangely around me? Is that why they've been treating me so carefully, so tenderly? Is that what drove Aaron away? Because he knew? Because they all know that I'm a murderer? If only I could remember why I killed him. Martha! Adriana burst into my room. She tried to wrap me in a hug, but I lurched back. I know the truth, I managed to tell her, and then I burst into tears. Adriana stepped forward and tried to hug me. This time I didn't move away. Martha, what are you saying? She whispered. Martha, it'll be okay. Really, it'll be okay. No, it won't, I shrieked, pulling away from her. I wiped my cheeks furiously with both hands. I know the truth, I insisted. It won't be okay. I could see the confusion on her face. She tugged at her black hair, her dark eyes narrowed on me. She doesn't know, I realized. Look, I wailed. I dropped down on my knees beside the canvas bag. I pulled it open wide so she could see. Look! Her hands stayed in her hair, tugging tensely as she peered down into the bag. No, she whispered. No. It's the wire, I told her, even though she already knew. The leftover wire, and the wire cutters. But, Martha, I killed Sean, I said in a low, flat voice, a dead voice. Here's the proof. But why? Adriana demanded, holding on to her hair as if grasping a life preserver. I don't know, I answered. I don't remember. But here's the proof. I killed him. Then I hid the rest of the wire in my bag. Adriana lowered her eyes to the bag. Then she shut her eyes, and I saw her whole body shudder. What are you going to do? She asked. Tell Mom and Dad, I replied. I'm going to tell Mom and Dad. I guess they'll have to take me to the police. My words made Adriana jerk back. She fell onto my bed, her hands flying up. But why, Martha? Why did you kill him? I don't remember, I said, shaking my head, trying to force back the tears. I saw you two fighting, Adriana remembered. That night in the cabin, you and Sean went into the back room. I passed by and saw you arguing. What was it about? I shrugged. I wish I knew. I just can't remember. He kissed me, I think, or maybe I kissed him, and then we were fighting, and then my voice trailed off. I took a deep breath. I don't know anything for sure. I only know that I'm a murderer. No, you're not. Another voice invaded my room. A boy's voice, from the bedroom doorway. I turned to see Ivan stride in, his black hair disheveled, his dark eyes wild. Ivan, Adriana cried, jumping up from the bed. How did you get here? What are you doing here? I followed you, he told his sister. Martha's parents let me in just before they left. But what do you want? Adriana demanded shrilly. Martha and I need to talk. We don't need you to. He waved his hand hard, a rough, sweeping motion intended to shut her up. His eyes blazed excitedly as he turned to me. Has he been drinking? I wondered. Is that why he seems so out of control? Why did he follow Adriana? Why did he come here? I heard what you were saying, Martha, he stammered. His dark eyes burned into mine. You're wrong. You're not the murderer. Huh? I gasped in shock. Ivan, what do you mean? Why do you say that? He took a deep breath. His chest heaved up and down. Despite the cold of the night, his forehead was drenched with sweat. I know you're not the murderer, Martha, he repeated, because I am. I murdered Sean. Chapter 23. No. Adriana let out a wild shriek and lunged across the room. She grabbed Ivan by the shoulders and started to shake him wildly. No. Why are you saying that? Why? He tossed her aside easily. She collided with my dresser, her face twisted in surprise and fear. You're not a murderer, she screamed at her brother. Yes, he insisted. I did it, Adriana. I have no choice now. I have to tell the truth. I can't let Martha think she was the one. Adriana uttered a loud gasp. She opened her mouth to protest, but changed her mind. I saw her shoulders slump, the color drained from her face. Ivan perched on the edge of my desk. His hand nervously brushed the small black goatee under his chin. He raised his eyes to me. I couldn't let you think you were the one, he said softly. I sputtered. I didn't know what to say. I glanced at the canvas bag. It had bared its frightening secret, and now my life would never be the same. None of our lives would be the same. Why did you kill Sean? I asked Ivan, softly, almost calmly. He found out that I'd stolen a car, Ivan explained. I stole a car and I wrecked it. I ran away. I wasn't caught. I don't believe it, Adriana murmured, shaking her head. She lowered herself to her knees on the floor. I made a mistake, Ivan continued. I told Sean about it. I thought he was my friend. I had to tell someone. I was kind of scared. I couldn't keep it to myself, but I never should have told him. He lowered his head. His dark hair fell over his forehead. He shut his eyes. What happened? I asked softly. Ivan sighed. Sean started asking me for money. He said he'd turn me into the police if I didn't give it to him. And did you do it? Adriana demanded. Ivan nodded. What choice did I have? If I got caught stealing that car, I'd be dead meat. My life would be over. So I kept giving Sean the money he asked for. There is just one problem. His voice trailed off. He rubbed his eyes. What problem? I urged. Sean kept asking for more and more. He was never satisfied. Ivan's voice broke. He took a deep breath and started again. A couple of times I had to steal to get the money for Sean. That's when I knew I had to do something drastic. I couldn't go on paying and paying and paying. Down on the floor, Adriana let out a disgusted groan, but she didn't say anything. Did you ever try to talk to Sean? I demanded. Did you ever try to reason with him? Ivan nodded. Just before our trip up to the cabins, I tried talking to him. I told him I couldn't pay him any more money. And what did he say? I asked. A bitter smile crossed Ivan's face. Sean laughed at me. He said I'd keep paying, or else he'd go tell my dad. Ivan's smile faded. That's when I lost it. Ivan? Adriana started. He waved her quiet again. He kept his eyes on me. I found a spool of wire in the back of the hall closet. That's what gave me the idea. When everyone was asleep, I sneaked out and strung the wire between the trees. Ivan sighed. I knew Sean would go first. He always had to go first. He had to be the first at everything. He shook his head sadly. If only I guessed the truth about him when I met him. But he seems like such a great guy. Everyone liked him. I even wanted to be like him when I first met him. I didn't know what he was really like until it was too late. So you decided to kill him? I asked. No way, Ivan insisted. The silver wire, it was real low to the ground. It was just ankle high. I only wanted to knock him down, maybe hurt him a little. Ivan let out a low, pained cry. I knew I wasn't thinking clearly. I was out of my head, crazed, so frightened that Sean really would turn me in. He really would ruin my life. Ivan climbed to his feet and walked to the window. He leaned on the sill and peered out into the cold blue night. I only wanted to hurt him, he continued. Scare him. I didn't want to kill him. I don't know what happened. I guess the snow shifted. The wind blew the snow away during the night, so the wire was much higher. Ivan uttered another cry. I saw the wire. I saw that it had moved. I saw it, too late, and then I saw Sean's head, and all the blood. His voice trailed off. He swallowed hard. Adriana jumped up. Her eyes were red, her features twisted in disgust. I'm calling the police, Ivan said, starting across the room to my phone on the desk. No, Adriana protested. She moved to block his way. Ivan, listen to me. I can't stand the guilt anymore, he said to me. I can't let you think you did it, Martha. I'm calling the police. I should have done it months ago. He picked up the phone. Adriana grabbed it out of his hand. You idiot, she screamed. You stupid idiot. Ivan grabbed for the phone. She swiped it out of his reach. Give it to me, Ivan demanded. You know you didn't do it, Adriana shrieked at her brother. Idiot. You know you didn't kill Sean. She pointed at me, her entire body trembling with rage. Martha killed him. You know Martha killed him. She did it. She did. Chapter 24. Her words cut through my heart, stabbed me like a knife. Why was Adriana accusing me like that? Did she know the truth? Did she know for sure that I was the murderer? If so, why was Ivan confessing? Why was Ivan claiming that he did it? With a furious groan, he grabbed the phone and struggled to wrestle it from her hand. She spun around, desperate to hold on to it. Why are you doing this? She asked her brother. Why are you ruining it? Ruining it? What did she mean, I wondered, watching helplessly as they fought. What was she talking about? Why are you ruining it? Adriana cried. Why are you ruining everything? I worked so hard, and you're going to ruin it. She gasped. She turned to face me, her mouth open, her eyes wide, her face reddened. She said too much, I realized. She blurted out more than she meant to. Before I could react, Ivan grabbed his sister by the shoulders. The phone fell from her hand and clattered to the floor. What do you mean? He demanded. Explain yourself. Ivan, no, Adriana protested. He forced her back against the wall, keeping her arms pinned down at her sides. Explain. For a moment, Adriana struggled to free herself. Then I saw the life fade from her eyes, saw the fight go out of her. She made no further attempt to get away. Ivan, don't ruin it, Adriana pleaded, but I could tell she had given up. Her voice came out in a hoarse whisper, so low I could barely hear her. Don't ruin it, don't ruin it, Adriana chanted weakly. She opened her mouth in a furious cry. I worked so hard, she moaned, and you ruined it. You both ruined it. What do you mean? Ivan demanded, holding her tightly against the wall. Are you saying that I didn't kill Sean? She shook her head sadly. When she raised her eyes to me, I saw cold fury in them. Sean wasn't supposed to die, she cried. It wasn't supposed to be Sean. She pointed at me with a trembling finger. It was supposed to be you, Martha. Why did you ruin everything? You were supposed to die. Chapter 25. Adriana, What are you saying? I cried in shock. She glared at me, her dark eyes narrowed in fury. She kept pointing, waving her finger at me, as if accusing me of a crime. Why did you take so long with your ski straps? She demanded, her voice hoarse now and ugly, menacing. Why did you take so long, Martha? I stared back at her, open-mouthed. What did she expect me to say? You were supposed to go first, she repeated, still pointing, her eyes wild now, wild with fury, brimming with angry tears. I told you to ski first, because the wire was ready for you. Huh? I gasped, not believing what she was saying. I raised the wire, Adriana sneered. I saw it strung across the slope. I waited till everyone was asleep. Then I went out and raised it. For you, Martha. For you. She finally lowered her head. She hugged herself. Not Sean, not Sean, not Sean, she chanted, shaking her head, her dark hair swaying with her. Ivan took a step back, his eyes dazed. His hands were balled into tight fists, his arms rigid, tense at his sides. All this time, he murmured weakly, his voice trembling. All this time I thought I was the murderer. All these months I thought I killed Sean. I suddenly felt dizzy, faint, as if Adriana's cruel words had invaded my head. I could almost feel them spinning around in there. I rubbed my temples, trying to force away the dizziness. Why? I finally managed to choke out. I don't understand, Adriana. I am your friend. Why? Why did you want to kill me? Her dark eyes flared. Because of Sean. Huh? Sean? What about Sean? I demanded, completely confused. I saw Sean first, Adriana screamed, raising both hands in rage. Ivan brought him over to the house. I saw him first. Sean and I. There is something special between us. I could feel it. But, Adriana, I started. Sean didn't know it, she continued, ignoring me. I don't think he knew it, but I felt it. A special closeness. An ugly sneer crossed her face. He wasn't really interested in Laura. She thought he was. Laura always thinks every boy she meets is totally crazy about her. But Sean wasn't interested in her. He knew he belonged with me. Adriana screamed these last words at the top of her lungs. I staggered back a step. She's crazy, I realized. Poor Adriana. She's really lost her mind. She isn't making any sense at all. She had been so stressed out recently, unable to sleep, unable to concentrate in school. But I had no idea. Don't stare at me like that, she shrieked. I'll scratch your eyes out, Martha. I really will. Ivan stepped forward. I saw his muscles tense. He was preparing to hold his sister back. I don't understand, I confessed. What did I do, Adriana? What did I do to get you so upset? I saw you kissing Sean, she shrieked. Her chest heaved up and down. She gasped in breath after breath. No, I cried. You didn't think... I saw you in the back room of the cabin, Martha. I saw you kissing Sean, and something snapped. She shook her head, her expression bitter. That's when I knew I had to kill you. You had Aaron, you had a nice family, parents who weren't at each other's throats every minute. You had everything, Martha, Adriana screamed. Why did you need Sean too? Why couldn't you leave something for me? So that's what it was all about, I finally realized. It was all a big mistake from beginning to end. I didn't want Sean to kiss me, I told Adriana. He dragged me into the back room because he said he wanted to talk, and then he forced me to kiss him. I pushed him away, Adriana. I wasn't interested in him. I pushed him away and... You pretended you were angry, Adriana accused. No. A bitter smile crossed Adriana's face. I saw you, Martha. I saw you pretend to be angry. You pretended to have a fight so that Aaron wouldn't get angry, but you wanted both boys. You had to have both of them. That's not true, I screamed. You're wrong. You were wrong then, and you're wrong now. I don't think she heard me. She stared at me with that strange, ugly smile, a smile that wasn't a smile at all. The wrong person died, she uttered, lowering her eyes. Because of you. The wrong person died. I wanted to yell out when he went down the slope. I wanted to stop him, but I was too late. Sean was gone, the only boy I ever cared about. Gone, because of you. Adriana. Ivan reached out to her, but she stepped away. When you lost your memory, she continued, raising her eyes to me. When you lost your memory, I knew it was my chance to cover up my crime. I gasped. What do you mean? I bought some wire and hid it in the bottom of your bag, Adriana confessed. Then, after my visits to the doctor, I hypnotized you. Huh? You what? I shrieked, raising my hands to the sides of my face, gaping at her in disbelief. I saw Ivan gasp too. Dr. Corbin was such a good teacher, and I learned so quickly, Adriana continued, her strange smile returning. I gave you hypnotic suggestions, Martha, to keep you from remembering. I hypnotized you to keep you from remembering the truth. I don't believe it, I murmured, my hands still pressed against my cheeks. And you left that message, that ugly phone message. I wanted you to feel guilty, Adriana said. I wanted you to feel deep down that you were the murderer. The strange smile faded slowly. But then you started to remember, she murmured, lowering her eyes. Then you started drawing Sean's face over and over. That was your memory, trying to force its way back. That was your subconscious mind, guiding your hand. She scowled at me, narrowing her eyes coldly. I kept hypnotizing you, kept giving you hypnotic suggestions, tried to push your memories back. But... Adriana opened her mouth and let out a cry, a horrifying cry of pain and anger. Sean died because of you, Martha. I can't let you go on living your perfect life as if nothing happened. Before I could move, Adriana dived to the floor. She pulled the coiled-up silver wire from the bag. Ivan moved to stop her. He lunged toward his sister. She spun quickly, raised a knee, caught him in the pit of the stomach. He groaned. His eyes bulged in surprise, in pain. He crumpled to the floor. Adriana, no! I tried to shout, but my voice came out in a hoarse croak. I started to back away. Too late. Adriana grabbed me roughly, whirled me around. I saw the cold hatred in her eyes, and before I could cry out, she had the silver wire around my throat and pulled it tight. I felt it cut into my skin. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe at all. Chapter 26. The wire cut into my throat. Adriana pulled the wire tighter. Tighter. I raised my hands, tried to grab her, but I could feel my strength flowing away, emptying out, my life emptying out. I made another weak grab for Adriana, staggered forward. I backed her into the desk. We both crashed hard against it, sending papers flying all over. I twisted around, tried to pull away, but I couldn't escape. Ivan! Where was Ivan? Still doubled over on the floor. Ah! A final choking gasp escaped my throat. I felt so weak and frightened. No breath left. I shut my eyes, saw only white, such a clean, pure white. What was that strange sound? The sound of me dying? No, breathing. I was breathing again, sucking in breath after breath. Breathing noisily. The silver cord had loosened, enough so that I could breathe. I opened my eyes. What had happened to Adriana? Why had she stopped strangling me? Why had she stopped? Why was I still alive? I struggled to focus. The bright, pure white faded so slowly. I sucked in another chestful of air. Adriana? She was staring down at the desktop. She had let go of the silver cord. She stared at the desktop, her hands at her sides. I blinked the pure white away. I had to see what she was staring at. I finally focused and saw the face. My drawing of Sean's face. The drawing had tumbled out of the pad. Adriana stared at the face as if hypnotized. Adriana? She didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe. She stared at my drawing, stared at Sean, and he appeared to stare back at her. They stared at each other, Adriana and the dead boy, the boy she had loved. Ivan stepped up behind her and removed the wire from her hand. He grabbed her wrists and held her in place. But she didn't move. Call for help, Ivan said softly. I turned away, rubbing my throat. I will, I thought. I'll call the police. I knew they would get help for Adriana. I knew I was okay now. Knew we were all okay. Knew the nightmare was over. I slumped into Ivan's arms. We held each other so tightly. And still Adriana didn't move. She stared, unblinking, hypnotized by the face that had puzzled me, upset me, horrified me for so long, the face that had saved my life. This has been a Nightfall Audiobooks production of The Face by R.L. Stine, a Fear Street novel, Book 35. Hi, this is Chris with Nightfall Audiobooks, and thank you for joining me for my production of The Face, another Fear Street novel. This was requested by a listener. I didn't really enjoy this. It was kind of boring. The hypnosis thing was used in The Sleepwalker, which happened much earlier in the Fear Street series. So that's reusing your own story beat. This wasn't very engaging. It wasn't very descriptive or memorable. It was a fast novel, but it didn't really grip me. I've had some genuine creep-out moments doing this show. I record this in my basement in my home studio, and I've gotten chills reading some of these novels. I didn't get that doing this. I wasn't very familiar with it going into it, and material that I don't know a whole lot about, I just let the story tell itself, and I figure out my opinion on it after it's all over. Obviously. I didn't really like this one. I'm glad I read it. It didn't really stand out. It wasn't a terrible book. It wasn't a great book. I wouldn't recommend it. If you wanted like a top 10 hits of Fear Street novels, I would not put The Face on that list. I would put Silent Night, Wrong Number 2, The Perfect Date, Double Date, Switched, The Best Friend, The New Girl. I don't think the twist at the end here was very good. I mean, someone had to kill Sean. It was plain old jealousy as the motivator. It wasn't anything very creative. I don't know. This just wasn't a really good story to me. If you liked it, that's great. So what should I do next? I don't know. Leave me suggestions. Write me an email, nightfallaudiobooks@gmail.com. I'm also on YouTube at Nightfall Audiobooks. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your mom, tell whoever you think would like to listen to me tell them tales from R.L. Stine. So thank you very much for listening, and I will see you next time.